Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. We are working on a 2004 Hyundai Santa Fe with a 3.5 liter V6 GLS. As y'all know, we are having a problem with this car today. We end up fixing the thermostat issue. We end up getting all the air out of the system and all that other mess, and now two more problems occurred on this car, and I think this vehicle is about to have its final days. As you can tell, we in the last video that I created about the overheating issue with no leaks, we did solve the problem with that. We ended up having a thermostat issue. The original thermostat was actually stuck closed. It wasn't sending fluid through the motor, causing the engine to overheat. Then we ended up putting a new radiator cap on, so it's doing what it has to do. And come to find out, I guess the whole entire time, this hose was not running to the top of this nipple on this radiator to make the fluid roll through here. And I always thought it was connected, so that's why it wasn't draining any fluid. And at times we wonder why it was gone in like a day or two, because it was probably dripping all over the ground, because for some reason it was all the way down here and not up here. So I told my wife that it has to be connected here, because if it ever overheats or if it ever starts to lose fluid out of the radiator, this thing will transfer the fluid all the way in here. So when I did a back flush on it, I flushed the whole radiator out, and I actually poured water in there with the actual drainage off to get all the orange grudge out of the system until it turned clear, and it did. I even took this off and took it completely out, cleaned it out really good. There was chunks of dirt or whatever in the system. I had to get that out. I did, put it back on, put fresh green cooling in, and everything's good to go. Now, if you want to know how to bleed the system on these Hyundai Santa Fe's, there is no bleeder. You can either do it the old school way by bleeding the hoses, or leave the radiator cap off for a few seconds till the car cranks. But there might be a situation that if you do that, it might squirt out, and if it does, then you can try to do it from this overflow. In my experience is cars that have no radiator caps, that are maintenance free, that only requires fluid through the reservoir, you could bleed it directly from that. So what I did is I went to the store and I actually bought one of those $60 bleedable funnels that you actually stick in here, and it actually bleeds. Well, technically it gets all the cooling in the air out of the system. I'm sorry, it gets all the air out of the system with that funnel when you pour it in here, and it has like a special thing. I don't know how to use it. I just bought it. I never had to use them. It's like a bleeder funnel. It's like a bleeding type funnel, and technically I do have it, and I will show y'all what it actually looks like, just so y'all are curious. Alright, this is the funnel that I actually purchased from O'Reilly's. It's like 59 bucks, but I got it on sale for 38 because I had some coupons. But this is the funnel that you can use on this car and works on other models, but this one works specifically for the Hyundai Santa Fe as well. I wanted to just go ahead and just show y'all. I haven't used it yet because we didn't have to, because we finally got the air out of the system, but I'll keep it just in case I actually need it. And those come in handy for cars that don't have bleeders. So after we got all the air out of the system and everything, I checked the oil cap and everything, because I noticed that the car was still overheating a little bit, but it was trying to gradually move itself up, but then it stopped. So when I checked her cap, when I checked her cap, there was a little bit of water-ish liquid on the radiator cap. But when I checked the oil 4 times, there was moisture on the actual dipstick. And what I mean by moisture is that water somehow got into the oil. But when I went ahead and changed the oil anyway, because it was due for a change, there was no water in the actual oil. It was just plain dirty oil, and there was no metal shavings whatsoever. So what I'm thinking is that last year this car was in an accident, like I said in the previous video, and as you can tell, this car had some body damage. As you can tell right here, it was bent and all this. So I straightened it out as much as I could with a hammer last year, as much as I could, and it made it where the headlight was a little lopsided and this was a little off, but it's still on. And as you can tell, it's got new fenders on it. I mean, it's got new fender wells, a new fender, you know, new bumper, the whole 9 yards. So what I'm trying to say is that this part of the hose that goes way down there that connects to this air box, it actually got crushed, like squished completely, so there was no air getting to it. So I had to take it off of here and throw it out. And those things are hard to find on these cars, especially when it's not all ripped up to hell and dry rotted. So we're thinking that water might have got up in here, because this car doesn't have a metal splash shield, and these Hyundais have a metal splash shield. And since I went to pull at junkyards and actual salvage yards, I cannot find those splash guards that covers the whole motor, including the oil pan. It has a splash shield for the pull to keep the pulleys from getting wet, but not for the hole underneath the motor. But there was no water in the oil; it was just moisture. So the dipstick came out with a little bit of white moisture, just like little, like clear moisture. But there was no water, no white particles. So, but when I cranked up the motor yesterday before I changed the oil, the freaking engine was ticking its butt off. It was going ta 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 ta. It sounded like, I thought it was an engine knock, and I was like, nope. I was like, how in the hell did the engine just all of a sudden start like tapping? So it sounds like it's a lifter or a cam. It sounds like it's in here, which technically kind of sounds like it's back there. So I put new oil in. I put 10W30 in it with some locust treatment in there. Let it run for 10 to 15 minutes. It got quiet within like 5 seconds after I cranked it, but before I changed the oil, it took about 20-30 seconds for it to start clearing up the ticking sound. So I don't know, that maybe when there was moisture into the oil, it might have made the lifters tap, because I also noticed when I actually changed the oil, and listen, when I actually changed the oil, there was a bubble this fucking big. I mean, it was this big, a big air bubble that came out of the bottom of this oil pan. And in my experience on my cars, I have never had air in my oil pan, especially a bubble that is like bigger, about that big or bigger. It was huge. So I'm thinking that the oil must have got filmy somehow, or maybe it was due to that moisture, and it probably got into the oil and it made a big air bubble. So that can also make your car overheat a little bit, and it could also cause the gauge to fluctuate. And since I got that out, put fresh oil in it, there was no more air in the system, and the car's no longer overheating. But I don't know if that also could have caused the lifter to make a loud ticking sound. I cranked it up 3 times yesterday to verify if the sound went away. The sound does not go away. So I'm thinking that the lifter is starving for oil, or the lifter kind of may have went bad. But always be sure, if you got air, a big air bubble, a huge one, we're not talking about like little tiny bubbles that comes out of your pan when you're draining it, or what's on your dipstick. We're talking about a big huge air bubble that was so freaking huge that I've never seen that. So I got all that out. So that could cause the car to overheat. That can cause, assuming a lifter problem. But it's all fresh, it's all clean. I don't know what else is going on. I'm looking into it today. But come to find out also that she has a cylinder 4 misfire. And if you know where your cylinder 4 is on here, this is cylinder 4. So the spark plugs are NGKs in here. They were put in last year. The warranties are up on it. But my coil packs have 1 year. The coil packs have lifetime. So since cylinder 4 is bad, for me to verify if it's a spark plug, I took this brand new coil pack that was over here, put it on cylinder 4, and take the old coil pack, that was this one that was actually over here, and put it over here. I'm trying to get the engine light to come back on. If it comes back on, let's say with cylinder 6, And that tells me this coil pack is bad. That was actually on cylinder 4. Now, if it comes on again saying cylinder 4 as a misfire with the brand new coil pack that was actually on this side, that tells me that the spark plug's actually bad. But I got new spark plugs anyway, just to be on the safe side, because my wife had to take my car today, and she's talking about getting another car, hopefully before or around tax time. With it having a bad lifter now, I'm hoping that it will last. I've seen Dodge Caravans where they actually last about 10 years with a bad lifter, and they stay loud. But I test drove this yesterday for about a good 5-10 minutes, and when you go down the road, you can't really hear the lifter actually making noise. It's only when it's idling or when you first start it up, and it didn't do that before. I'm just hoping that the oil will circulate more and lubricate the lifters to probably make it where it's not making that noise anymore. But at first, when I heard the lifters, I was like, this thing sounded like it's starting for oil, but it was full of oil. Had no oil leaks. So the only thing I could think of is something to do with all that moisture. So what we're going to do is, not today, but we're actually going to get rid of this air box since everyone at the junkyard's basically shit, because always these hoses are always like carpet filling, and they always rip and tear on the ends. I want to get rid of this air box and put one of those washable, cold intake, only the filter to go on the hose, not the whole air intake, but just the filter, so where it keeps water from getting into here and going through the system. That's the only possible thought that we know that could cause moisture to get into the oil. So as soon as we can get a filter for this to connect to this hose, we can get rid of this box, and then you don't have to worry about this, because we're just fixing this car for now until we could basically get another one. But I know when she does get another car, this car will be for sale, but it's probably going to sell it for like maybe $800, $1,000 maybe, because these cars are pretty expensive in today's world. But with the body damage and has no heat, but everything else works on it, it's got cold AC, the whole 9 yards, we're just going to sell it to get a little extra money out of it, because we know that it's not going to be worth junking if it's a good running car. And I don't believe in junking cars that run good and that somebody can actually use and go back and forth to work with. I was going to take the motor out and sell the motor separately and go back and junk the car to get an extra $100, $300 out of it, but I don't want to go through the hassle doing all that. This would be a good car for a beginner, or somebody just wants a secondary car just for shits and giggles. But I hope this video helps about the thermostat overheating issue, which has been solved today. This video also contained about the cylinder 4 misfire and about the moisture into the oil on the Hyundai Santa Fe. And I recommend, if you can't get the air out of your system, you could buy one of those bleedable funnels that I showed you earlier in the video, and that will also help your situation on cars like this that don't have bleeders. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel today, and check out our latest downloads and videos that we have available on our website, including on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And y'all have a great day.